I opened the door. Like, I answered the door. And I remember being like, terrified. Like, why is the police here?
I'm Claudia.
And I'm Luciana.
And this is Where We Land, a podcast about immigration and multicultural identity. Before we begin, if you have experienced moving to the US and you have a story to share about it, if you have a culture clash that you lived through while you were abroad and you want to share that with us, if you have a current cultural favorite, like a piece of culture from back home or from the US that you are currently loving, can't get enough of, please write to us at wherewelandpod@gmail.com.
On today's episode, we spoke with Andrea Moncada, who was so fun. I'm so glad I got to meet her.
Yeah.
She is currently living in London and is expecting a baby. So talked about like how she wants to raise that baby, identity, multicultural stuff that goes into raising the baby, language, all of the stuff that really resonates with us and everyone here. So it was really fun.
Yeah, there's also a couple of really interesting stories. There's a story that involves a cop. There's a story that involves hitting a car. Just regular stuff. So it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
My name is Andrea Moncada. I am Peruvian, like you guys, but I grew up in the U.S. when I was young, like you guys as well, and then moved back to Peru, and now currently I live in Oxford in the United Kingdom.
Do you remember how we met?
I do remember how we met. So you and I used to be in a Model UN team when we were 21.
That's right, the nerds.
But Claudia has shared this, so it's okay. We won't bully you guys. So let's start with, where in the world does your journey start?
From a very early age, we moved around quite a bit. So when I was, I want to say 2 or 3 years old, we moved to Santiago in Chile.
Okay.
Because my dad was doing a master's degree there. And so honestly, my earliest memory is in Santiago. It's not in Lima. So we were there for 2 years. And then when I was, I want to say 5 or 6, we moved back to Lima. We were there for a couple years only. So I did like first grade, like a bit of kindergarten and first grade. And then we moved to the U.S. when I was 7 because my dad started working for the Inter-American Development Bank in D.C.
And is this just mother, father, and yourself? Do you have siblings?
I have an older brother.
Okay.
He's like 3 years older than me. He also doesn't live in Peru anymore. He hasn't lived there for like 10 years now, over 10 years. He lives in Switzerland.
Okay. So, and you move at 7 to DC. And what was that transition like?
For me, it was not a difficult transition at all. I mean, I have some more complicated feelings and memories around it, but they didn't really have a lot to do with my experience. Like I remember, like showing, like we moved there, and obviously I was very aware, like, oh, this is entirely different to what I've been used to up until now. Like in every sense of the word, like houses in the U.S. look very different to houses in Lima. Our school, our neighborhood, like the seasons, like everything was entirely. We moved in January. Yeah, we moved in January, and there was like a huge snowstorm. It was the first time I'd ever seen snow. So I have like all these memories of like how different everything was. Like I do remember that, but I don't recall like it being that difficult to integrate because I was so young, and so I mean I didn't really speak any English, neither did my brother or my parents for that matter, when we moved there, but I don't recall really struggling with the language. I remember the first day of school, and then I remember being fluent, and then that must have taken like maybe 4 months.
That makes sense at that age. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think we had a similar experience ourselves.
Where the complicated feelings or like the more like complex memories come from are actually from watching my parents try to find themselves or try to integrate themselves into a society that I think was extremely different to them. Because they never really, aside from that experience in Santiago, and again, like there's cultural differences, of course, between Chile and Peru, but they're not that big, and the language is the
Yeah.
same, and also I was like 3, so I can't remember much. But I think it was the first time. It was really the first time they'd been so out of the element, and I really that is like for me like the core memories of being a young Peruvian girl living in DC.
That's striking to hear, because you said you moved because of your dad's job, right? That's the reason you guys are in DC. And whenever I think of like immigrating somewhere, I'm like, oh, if you move because of job, that must be easier, because it's like you're automatically have somewhere to go every day. You're automatically going to meet new people. It's like a helpful tool, you know, to have an office to go to every day to help you fit in. So I'm
built-in
curious
community.
about right. So I'm curious about what specifically was it that you saw that was difficult for your parents to fit in, do you think?
I mean, you're definitely right that it is like in terms of, you know, the broad scope of immigrant experiences, like having a job, having your status be, you know, not questioned in any way, like that obviously makes it a lot easier in several aspects, right? You don't have to worry about money or livelihood or anything like that. I think the difficulty was that I think they just felt really out of place culturally. My dad did go for work, but the organization that he worked for, everybody was Latino.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't really have like much of an incentive to learn English that quickly, because his working life was in Spanish, right? And then his home life was in Spanish, right? And so like he had obviously like interactions with the rest of the population, but they weren't that like frequent, right? And
Right.
so my mom was actually the one who had to like learn and try to like pick up like I don't know, like learn how to drive a car, and then navigate like that whole thing, and then take us to school and deal with the schools or the doctors, etc., because she was a stay-at-home mom. So she had to sort of figure that out a lot quicker. I think they felt quite lonely, and out of place. And to me, watching that was, I mean, obviously when you're that little, you don't really understand, but you do have a feeling of like, my parents aren't really that happy here.
Do you have a relationship with Peru back? Are you visiting? Are you thinking about Peru? Or are you just like, oh, I'm in the US, this is where I'm at, like this is my home? Where's your headspace at that moment?
We did visit once a year. I remember that, which was nice. But honestly, to me, like Peru, by then, like Peru had just become this place that we visited once a year, and I knew that that's where we were from. I knew that's where my parents were from, but it did not feel like home to me anymore at all. Like for me, home was where we were, which was Montgomery County, Maryland, Potomac specifically. So that was home to me, and I genuinely like it's kind of surprising how quickly you at that age adopt another identity. And honestly, I did not really feel Peruvian. I wouldn't say I felt American either, or maybe I guess on a sliding scale, far more American than I did Peruvian, because we spoke in Spanish with our parents at home, but even that like started to slowly erode. To the point where like our parents had to put us in Spanish school in the weekends because we weren't speaking like grammatically in a grammatically correct way.
Right.
Everything in my life is in English. Like my friends, there were no Latinos, or very few Latinos where I lived. Like everybody was either, you know, white or Asian, predominantly. So no, there were no families that looked like us. I don't remember that. Maybe there was one. So yeah, for me it was like, oh yeah, like I'm American. This is where I live. This is where my family lives.
So you guys were there from when you were 7 up until you were 12. That's a significant block of time. It's also very significant years, like important years
Formative,
of growth for a child. Yeah, very formative. So what do you think, how do you think that time in the States where you felt so American and so a part of that community, how do you think that time impacted you or shaped you?
It changed me forever.
How so?
It was a watershed moment for me. There was no going back. Like it sounds quite intense what I'm saying, but honestly, that's I've always known. Like for me, my life began like I have memories, you know, like or rather like when I think of my life as like in stages. Like for me, my life began when I was 7 years old. It just completely it was just a completely transformative moment, and so it I think it changed me in several ways. I mean, going back to Peru when I was 12 was really hard. It was way harder going back to Peru than it was to move to the US originally. I felt really out of place as well. Quite different. I had a weird accent speaking in Spanish that people would
That
point
happens.
out. Kids would make fun of me, or they thought I was putting it on or stuck up in some way. I got bullied quite a lot, like the first 3 months of of school. Then that went away. But it was quite difficult for me. I couldn't understand, I think back then, why we'd done that. Like I remember before we like maybe like a few months before we left. Like obviously my parents told us, right?
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, we're going back to Peru." And the reason we went back is because my father was offered a pretty good job back home in Lima, and for them it was like, well, if we are going to have a good livelihood and we're going to be surrounded by friends and family and we're back in, you know, our environment, then there's really no reason for us to stay in the US. Like they didn't really see an advantage.
They weren't really loving it too, right? Like it wasn't.
No.
Right.
I think as soon as they got an opportunity, like a good opportunity that was worthwhile for them, they were like, let's go.
And was that obvious to you at that age? Or is it something you look back on now? Or at that age, did you know they weren't having a good time?
No, I knew. Like, obviously not as I wasn't as keenly aware of it as I am now with, you know, age and experience and introspection and all that. But like, yeah, I knew. My dad used to do this thing that obviously back then I was just like, oh, Dad, you're being so annoying. But now I understand why. And he would always talk about Peru as this like amazing place. And I think he was so concerned with his children forgetting their Peruvian identity that he was just like always saying, Peru's amazing, you're Peruvian, it's the best place in the world. It's great to be Peruvian. And I remember back then I was like, Dad, stop being so annoying, let me be, you know. But now I
you were like,
understand.
we're here now, leave me alone.
Right.
Yeah, like I couldn't understand why he would do that, but now
what
I
is
get
this
it.
hard sell on Peru? Right.
Yeah, exactly. He was really hard selling it. So yeah, I think that it was that. I have a very specific memory now, actually. Coming back to me, my mom got in. So she was driving one day, and she accidentally hit a side mirror, like somebody else's side mirror, and she freaked out and she left. Right? She didn't stop. She didn't exchange insurance information like you're supposed to do. She just freaked out and she left. And obviously the person she had like clipped with her car had taken her license plate and blah, blah, blah. And they like figured out that she was the one driving it. And so I think a few days after that, someone knocked on her door and it was the police. It was the police. And I opened the door. Like I answered the door. And I remember being like, terrified, like, why is the police here? And the policeman was really nice, and he explained, and my parents also like, they're understood, and I had to sort of translate as well because my mom's English wasn't that great, neither was my dad's. And I remember like seeing my mother so nervous, you know, like so nervous, so panicked, like I think she had been given a court summons. To go deal with this. And obviously, nothing happened. I forget.
Right.
It was no big deal. I think she just had to pay the person's like the damages, which were minor. It was nothing. But I do remember thinking, oh my God, like my mom and dad are seeing them so vulnerable like that. Like I remember thinking, wow. I thought adults were like so like, you know, self-sufficient and like very sure of themselves, because that's how they were with us, like as parents. Like they were like that with us. They were quite like, you know, confident in their decisions towards us.
Right.
But, and towards like their, when they were with family and all that, like I knew that this wasn't like normal for them, like that kind of reaction wasn't normal for them, right? So yeah.
Right. Like, what's going on? This is not who you are. Like, talk to them how you talk to me.
Right. Why do I have to talk to the cop? Why?
Yeah.
Why am I
Yeah.
translating?
Honestly, though, I feel like this is like a classic immigrant child experience.
Yeah.
because I
it
had
is.
friends who've had to do
translated.
it.
I've translated for my mom. Yeah.
I remember feeling, oh my God, my mom's going to jail.
Oh my God.
Oh,
no.
no.
That's so scary. No.
Something very dramatic. Something like yeah, I do remember feeling quite scared.
Yeah.
Obviously, like that later, my parents explained, and I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh, but I can totally understand this as like, have you ever got like the first time as a grown up, like when you're like 20, in your late 20s or whatever, and you get like a scary letter from like because you didn't pay some bill or something, you know, and you're like, when you get a scary and you're like 28 and you're like, what the fuck? What? They're gonna what?
And
then
it's
you're like, oh,
like
you just
a
pay the bill and it's gone.
$20 bill. that you
Exactly. And you just pay it and it disappears, all the paperwork. But it's scary paperwork. So like a court summon in a foreign country.
Yeah.
Scary
It was.
paperwork.
Yeah,
Scary.
yeah. And so when you moved back to Peru, age 12, you say like it was hard. I got, you were bullied because you spoke English perfectly, probably because
Same girl, same. Join the
same.
club.
We can relate. What are like the culture clashes you're experiencing when you get back to Peru?
So very specific things like in the US, for example, when you enter a room, you don't have to say you can say hello, like as a general hello to whoever's there.
Yep.
And in Peru, you have to say hi with a kiss on the cheek to every single person. And
There could be
remember
25 people and you got to kiss 25 cheeks.
and your
Oof.
parents are like, go say hi
go.
to your aunt. Say to
Don't
the aunt
make
you
me
never
look
seen.
bad. Don't
Yes.
make me look bad.
Be
I
well
know.
behaved. This is part of being a good,
Oh my
prudent
gosh,
daughter.
Andrea, I was unofficially nicknamed the misbehaved Valdivieso. Which
Yeah.
Valdivieso? Claudia, the misbehaved one, the one that doesn't say hello.
Yeah. Claudia hated it. Claudia
I hate it.
We-
I refused.
No
I
one
refused to.
enjoyed it, but Claudia hated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, what do I have to do
So
this?
extra. I feel like it's so extra with a large group of people. If you're like meeting your friends, like, yeah, I actually now full circle, like it's like I find it too cold sometimes how we say hi in this country.
Yeah,
So
same,
full
same.
circle, but in a room of 20 people, come on.
Yeah,
Have we
that
not
was
learned
one.
anything from COVID?
About that time in Peru, you've like alluded to the fact that well, you didn't want to go, and then also the fact that like being in the States that period of time was life-changing for you. And I know that because you've told me that you knew pretty early on that Peru wasn't the place where you were going to be spending the rest of your life.
Oh,
And so-
I knew. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really curious because you were so young. Like you moved back to Peru at 12. That's so young to me. So I'm just wondering, to the extent to which you can remember, what was your thought process as a 12-year-old? Like what was it either about Peru or the US that made you so sure that you weren't going to live in Peru?
I think it was that it opened up, like moving to us, opened up the world to me in such a dramatic way. Like I couldn't imagine, even back then, even at 12, I couldn't imagine ever being able to be satisfied being back in Peru. And I don't want to sound mean about it. Like there's nothing wrong with living in Peru, obviously.
Yeah, you
my
did it for
parents
a
are
long
there.
time.
Yes, and I loved it. I really miss home now that I live in the UK now. I love going back and seeing my friends and my family. It was wonderful, but I knew it was just never going to be enough for me. Like it was kind of like having unfinished business when I was 12 years old, and having this feeling of I was taken from a place that I was really happy and comfortable in that was so different. Had made me so different. And also I think the language, like being able to speak English fluently, opened up a ton of like books and movies and music, and just ideas that I think would have maybe come later had
Yeah.
I've only ever known Spanish. In the US, there was more emphasis on like the self, or like self-realization, and being who you are, and accepting yourself as who you are, and being freer, and it seemed to me that there were more educational opportunities as well. I was always a very nerdy child, so I was worried about that even then. More opportunities. And I think as a girl, like as a woman now, I felt Peru to be a bit constrictive as well. Like the expectations set upon you as a girl, and then later as a woman, I think are quite different to what I had been taught up until that point when I was 12 in the US, where you're more like in charge of yourself, where you have more freedoms allowed to you. So I think that was definitely it. And then, as I got older, when I did undergrad in Peru, and as I got older, and I realized I could be achieving more work-wise if I left. Like the things that I wanted to do, the work that I wanted to do, I was just never going to be able to do it back in Peru. And so I that was another reason why, like, I knew I was going to have to leave eventually.
Yeah. And I'm curious about that because you eventually did leave again, but you went to the UK. But I'm wondering throughout this, because you go to the UK once, you get a degree, then you go back to Peru, and then eventually you go to the UK for another degree and you stay there, and that's where you live now. So I'm wondering, in between all this, like, I know I don't want to be here, I'm living in Peru, and then I go to the UK, I come back. During that part of your adult life, while you're trying to figure this out, where you don't want to be in Peru, but it seems like you don't know exactly where you're going to end up yet. Are you talking this over with family, with friends? But I'm specifically curious about your family because they did those moves with you, right? They were with you when you were in DC. And so they probably know, since you've been so sure since you were 12 that you wanted to leave. Have your parents been aware of that throughout this time? Did you ever talk to them about it or share those feelings?
Yeah, they knew. I mean, when I first left, like that was what, 2013. Yeah, I was 24. And the first time I came to the UK, I had to go back to Peru because back then it was extremely hard to stay, just because of immigration laws and all that. So it was really difficult to stay after finishing a degree. And that was extremely difficult as well. Like I found that very, very hard. It was a very hard blow for me because I loved London. Like I lived in London then, and I loved it. It seemed to me like such a cosmopolitan place, so diverse, quite different to Lima, which, as much as I love it, can sometimes be quite provincial sometimes. People are, a lot more conservative and traditional. And I just absolutely loved it. So it was quite difficult to go back. But then, when I went back, which I'm actually quite grateful for now because I met great people like Claudia, and I made great friends that I adore and cherish. And I had great work experiences that have helped me get to be where I am now. But as soon as I went back, the plan was, okay, what do I have to do work-wise and education-wise to leave again? And they knew that. My parents knew that. And they were supportive of it. Like they never told me like, no, you have to stay. How could you go? Like it was more like, I think a little sad for them, but like they understood completely that desire to leave. I think they knew that their daughter was completely changed after 12 years old, after 7 years old. Like they knew it, and that there was no going back. So they were fine with it. And yeah, so honestly, like those 6 years, it was about 6 years between like London and now. I kind of felt like my life was on hold, to be honest with you. I found it. I loved it. I really enjoyed my time in Lima, but there was always this feeling of don't get too comfortable because you're going to leave again.
Wow.
So don't make plans. Don't make huge plans. Don't make like life-changing decisions like, I don't know, getting married or
don't fall in love, Andrea.
Don't fall in love, or if you do, but just so you know. So it kind of, I remember feeling like in a state of limbo like, oh, my life hasn't really begun, because it's not where I want it to be. So yeah,
Right.
I felt like a feeling of waiting it out. And then when COVID hit in 2020, that's when I started thinking, oh, I need to start really making moves to leave again. And I mean, the reason why I chose the UK was mainly because it's a lot cheaper to pay for graduate education here than it is in the US, and it was, a really good education anyway, and so that was the the logical choice for me. And my first experience here had been so wonderful, and so I said, okay, let's try this again. And this time around, the immigration laws had changed to the point where you could stay for 2 years after finishing a degree, and so that's what I did.
So now you live in the UK and you're currently pregnant. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you will be giving birth and raising a British baby very soon. So excited.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, yeah, all sorts of complicated, happy, and slightly apprehensive feelings as well.
Both things can be true. Both things can be true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, as I hate to say it, but like I kind of always knew that was gonna be the case. That my child, I mean, I wanted to have a baby. At some stage in my life, I guess I chose now. And I kind of always knew that chances were that it was going to be abroad, and it was probably not going to be with somebody who's Peruvian like me. My partner is British. So that was not, I guess it kind of like fits within.
You're like, I was manifesting. This is what I wanted.
Yeah.
Very intentional.
It was a more likely outcome. And I guess like now that, I'm thinking about what it will be like to raise a child, like I definitely think like, what is that going to mean for, it's a boy, so what is that going to mean for my son once he's here? How am I going to help him understand his own identity?
Yeah.
As my partner is Welsh, so as a Welsh Peruvian baby, right? As a Welsh Peruvian human, like what is that going to mean to him? And so
yeah,
I think about that a lot, and I think about like, how am I going to foster a connection with my family who's all in Peru, fairly far away, that we only see like maybe once a year,
and who don't speak English.
How am I going to make sure that my child speaks Spanish? Which it's like a massive, like a huge thing for me. Like I worry about that a lot.
I hear you. I'm right there with you. We talk about that a lot on the podcast. It's a subject that's very near and dear to me. I have 2 small children, so we are in it.
My partner, I have this plan of once he's at school age, enrolling him in a Spanish, like there's a school nearby that teaches like half the week in Spanish and half the week in English, so that's going to be massively helpful as well.
Nice.
But I think more than the language, it's also like, how am I going to ensure that he feels comfortable with not being fully British in an environment where it's the UK. Like I wonder about that a lot. And to be honest with you, I don't really have like an answer yet, and I think it's going to be kind of like figuring it out as I go. But yeah, like how do I make sure he's comfortable and happy and proud even of like having a Peruvian mother, and being linked to that without feeling like he's an outsider, because I wouldn't want for him to feel that way. But I also think if you're a mixed race baby, or your parents are from different nationalities, it's kind of unavoidable to feel or to know that you are in some ways different. I want him to be okay with that. I think that's the goal, right? Like I want him to eventually be okay with who he is.
Yeah.
I think Luciana is going through something similar.
Yeah. We and actually we had a guest. Maybe you know her. Does she know? Do you know Dania?
I do know. I do. Yes.
Okay. So Danny Vaughn came on the show, and we were talking about this, and just like how the pride aspect, that like for them to feel proud of their heritage, of speaking the language, comfortable enough to like, I'm speaking English with you, and I turn around and I speak in Spanish with you, and it's okay that you know that I speak Spanish and that I also have this other side of me. And that comes with age. And I do remember as a child feeling not as comfortable with both of those identities. So I want to shield my child from that, but I also want him to expose him to that because I need him to be, it's so much. and I think how you're approaching it is, I think, like how you kind of have to like kind of just seeing how it goes, because there is no right or wrong way is what I'm seeing. And we're sharing ideas. So yeah, like happy to always bounce like what you're trying and what I'm trying, because I feel like we're just kind of all just going with our gut on this one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not gonna hard sell it like my dad.
I was gonna ask. I was like, are you gonna become your father and be just pitching?
Oh my
Peru?
God. Can you imagine with your
How
5-year-old
full
kid,
circle.
all of a sudden it comes out of you? Peru's the best place in the world. Oh my
You
God.
don't even understand. Peru is the best. And then you're like, I have a pitch deck on Peru right now that I'm showing my kid.
I've become my father.
I become my hey.
Oh my gosh.
It is interesting now that you pointed out. I do feel a deep sense of loyalty to Peru and my Peruvianness, despite me being like, no, I gotta get out of here. Like I feel a very strong sense of loyalty and attachment. I think you've said this before, Claudia, and we've talked about this too. But like, I am Peruvian. Like, I don't consider myself American. I think I am like, there's a little appendage within me that is and forever will be American. That's like it's a very important appendage, but it's still quite small. Like I am Peruvian. Like that is what I think of myself. And so that is why it's so important for me for my son to also have that feeling.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do understand and I do accept that he is not going to feel the same way as me.
Yeah.
Because he's not, I mean, maybe we'll live there eventually. I don't know what life has in store, but it's never going to be, his experience is not going to be mine, right? And so he's going to go through the world with a very different filter and lens than I will. And that's okay. That's totally fine. Like I accept that and I acknowledge it. And I think my job is just to make sure that he feels happy with who he is.
What do you think it is that allowed you to have this really lovely, easy experience of moving abroad versus how difficult it was for your parents?
I think I have had a much easier time integrating into the UK just based on my level of fluency and also because I sound American. And people treat you differently. I hate to say it. Like I can see like my other Peruvian friends who live here, who I met through school, not have that, and for them, it's a bit of a different experience to me. But like, yeah, I think it's made me a lot more confident. I don't have to worry about that, like the language barrier. I think just in general attitudes to. Or being exposed to so many different cultures and different ways of life as from so young is vastly different to what my parents lived when they were young. I mean, my dad came from a tiny village in northern Peru, very rural. My mother was from a fairly larger city back in the south, but still like just completely different levels of education and experiences and opportunities, etc. So I guess like obviously now as an adult looking back, like I don't blame them at all for how they felt. I think it's completely understandable.
Yeah. I think it's very common for a lot of immigrants to feel that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, your experience is going to be completely different. Like your little guy will never have to translate for you.
No.
Under any
if a cop
he will
comes
be
knocking,
spared that.
if
a cop comes knocking, he will answer. Like, what do you want?
I got this. Go over there, Junior. Yeah.
He won't have to go through that, right? Like he won't be an immigrant. That's the thing. Like that's the difference between my baby and me.
Unless you move him to Peru to just like, you
maybe.
know what, we need to just like, this is how you're gonna get to experience Peru. Boom. And then we'll have him on the show.
And then maybe he'll also be slightly traumatized a little bit.
You know what? That immigrant trauma, it's good for you.
It's good for
Helps
you.
you grow. Okay, we have one last final little segment that we do where we ask the guest, and I did not prep you for this. I'm sorry. But we ask the guest if there is a word or phrase in their language of origin that either has no translation to English or that they just prefer how it sounds in Spanish. Can you think, first thing that comes to your head, off the top of the dome, a word or phrase like that in Spanish? You got one.
You have one. That was fast.
Well, there's a lot in Peruvian Spanish, especially. There's a lot.
Yeah.
I guess one is like, que palta.
Que palta.
Que palta, which literally means what avocado.
That's the literal translation, yes. But I guess bummer.
But it can
No,
mean so many
because
things.
palta also
Oh
means,
no,
it means a
because
lot
it
of
can
things.
mean
It can mean
bummer.
embarrassment. It can
And it can
mean
mean it's just we gave so much meaning to avocado. In Peru.
yeah. Also, it can mean weird. Like you can be like que palta. Like oh my gosh, that was so weird. That was so icky. Cringe.
Yeah,
Cringe.
like that's so cringe, or that's embarrassing, or
Yeah.
oh my god, that's like terrible or worrisome. Like it can mean a whole bunch
Yeah.
of things.
Avocado
palta.
never knew that it
And you can like conjugate it differently. You can say me pareció horrible.
or paltaza.
Paltaza. Paltaza. Right? It's like a big avocado. So, having finished our conversation, how did that land for you?
That was so fun. I'm glad I finally got to meet Andrea. She's great.
Yeah. She's a cutie.
I feel like there was a lot of stuff that she was saying that really felt like my own experience as well, actually, from all of her moving around. Something that really stuck with me was how she knew, like, when she went back to Peru, like, oh, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And you remember that as her friend, like, she'd just be very matter of fact, like, I love Peru. It's great here. I'm living here for a long time, but it's not this isn't where I'm going to be permanently.
Yeah.
And I think that I felt the same. I don't think it's something that I voiced like she did. I don't think it's something that I was like, oh, I'm not going to be here, or I'm just here from, like, no, I think I was living very intentionally. Like, I may be here for forever.
In Peru, you mean?
In Peru. While I was in Peru, I think I was, unlike her, she was kind of telling her friends, like, a close group of friends, like, I'm not going to live here, or her family, sure, like, I'm not going to live here. I was not doing that. I was in Peru, what seemed like could be forever. But I think that deep down, I did know that I wasn't going to be there. I don't think I could have told you the US. I don't think I could have told you Europe. I don't think I could have, but I kind of, there was a little something in me thinking it's not going to be here forever.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that some people maybe had some hints. Like, I do remember a really close friend of mine, kind of telling me, "Oh, but you're going to leave." Like, kind of like, you're not going to be here. Like, it's just like, "Oh, this is so fun. Like, we're having such a great time." And she's like, "But as someone so is going abroad for school, you're going to go abroad for school and you're going to leave. You're not going to come back." And I was like, kind of like accusing me,
Right.
And I was like, oh, like, no, I'm just going for school. But I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I might not. I just think I wasn't so open about it because, like, you don't know. I don't think I was leave or bust. But I think deep down I had that. And it seems like she was very sure that was going to be
She was
the
really
right for
sure
her.
at 12 years old, which is very striking.
Which is so, like, well, okay, if that's what you want, great, you achieved it. But I don't think I had that clear. I just had more of like a gut feeling that stuck.
I think.
What about you?
I think it's really interesting that that she was so sure at 12 years old. And it did make me start to think, wait, how did I feel when I came back?
Uh-huh.
And I actually remember, like, when we moved back, we didn't move back to Lima like her because we're not from Lima. We're from a smaller town called Trujillo.
Yeah.
So when we moved back from the States, we moved to Trujillo.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember thinking, I'm not going to live in Trujillo.
Yes, for sure.
It wasn't Peru. It was Trujillo because
Yeah.
that's the only city in Peru I knew and had ever lived in. I had never lived in Lima, wasn't very familiar with it.
Yeah.
So when we moved back, I do remember a very intense and very clear knowingness of being like, yeah, Trujillo isn't it. This isn't it.
Mhm.
I'm never going to live here.
Mhm.
Like, as soon as I graduate, I'm out. And I wonder if we would have been from Lima and we would have moved back to Lima, would we be saying, oh, this isn't it, so Peru isn't it? Because Lima is the biggest city and it is the most metropolitan. And when you think about going somewhere else in Peru, you're usually thinking about going from some other city to Lima. Rarely
Yeah.
do people think, let me go to Lima, from Lima to somewhere else, because there's just more opportunities. Lima is bigger, the market is bigger, there's more things there.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we had moved back from California to Lima, would we have had that same feeling we had about Trujillo,
Yeah.
but about Lima and therefore about Peru?
Yeah, I don't know. I think again, like when I moved back to Trujillo, I was like, well, this feels temporary for sure to Trujillo, right?
Mhm.
But when my friend called me out on that, I was in Lima. I was in my late 20s
Yeah.
in Lima, and she was, or like mid 20s, and she was like, but you're gonna leave. Like, and I think it's because she saw me, like I was like la gringa for a lot of because
Yeah.
so I think that she just saw that, like, and I did love, like, I had gone to New York in my early 20s for a course, and I had loved that. So I wonder if it was just like that when I would come back, I would be like so hyped about New York that it just like you could read it, like I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe.
So but obviously after that exposure to New York, coming back to Lima just felt
Tiny.
because New
Yeah.
York is so unique in the world.
Yeah, I relate to what you're saying about what your friend told you. No
Mhm.
one ever told me, like, oh, you're going to leave. But every time I didn't leave,
Mhm.
everyone would express surprise. Like, when I graduated high school and I told people, oh, yeah, I'm going to go study in Lima, a lot of people from school were like, oh, I thought you were going to go to the US.
Right.
And I was like, why would I go to the US for like, I've never even mentioned that. Like, why?
Right.
And
just
but
assumptions.
just assumptions. And then
Yeah.
the same thing when I was like, oh, I'm going to go do a master's next year. And they're like, okay. And I was like, yeah, to the UK. And they're like, why aren't you going to the US?
Right.
Isn't that like your thing? Don't you
Right.
like love it there? And I'm like, what? Where is this coming from?
From your
don't get it.
English. From your English.
I know. Yeah.
Another thing that I like related with when she was talking was about how she had that experience with her mom with the cop, and she had to translate, and it just seems like her parents really struggled. Like, again, I don't really think that was our case, because our parents, kudos to them, really like tried to assimilate. Our parents learned English. They spoke it with accent, but they spoke it like I never felt I needed to be the adult in the 7 years that we lived in the US at all. Like, I think my parents
I have a slightly different experience.
Oh, really? Like, I feel like our parents had it. My mom, I feel like kudos to her, would like drive us, put us in classes, like all of the things. Like, she was definitely managing that. But I did observe other kids having to do that. Like, there's this image, this moment that is ingrained in my head when we were in a supermarket that we didn't usually go to, but I remember that my mom and dad really liked to get the meat there for some reason.
Market.
We
would only go for the meat.
The meat. Yeah. And so we were there getting meat, and kudos to remember the name.
I remember all those, because I was so tiny. I would go to all the shopping trips.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was I would get out of school before you guys at the beginning.
Albertsons, I remember that. But anyway.
And Save Mart.
But we were at our RN market, and I remember there was this family that I was observing. Like, I think my mom was like at the butcher, and I was just like watching this other family, and it was like a girl my age, her mother, who just seemed really like just like kind of almost like a little scared, intimidated, and just was like, and I think they were trying to get like a chicken, like they were selling like those rotisserie chickens, and and she had the younger brother, and she was explaining to the guy, like, we want one of these, and the mom was like giving her instruction, and she would, so like this little girl was, handling the situation. And I just, that stuck me because I remember it vividly, and I just would see examples like that time and time again, where it's like the parent, just is kind of frozen, and the kid is, and I just, I feel for her, because I think, like, you're stepping up. You're obviously not super comfortable talking for the adult. Obviously, it's giving you great experience, but there is this,
there's anxiety that goes with it.
Yeah,
and
there's just group of people that has had to grow up faster than others, and I don't think we had to do that in the U.S.
No, we didn't have to do that, but I do have a similar experience with mom. But it was different because, so I've had experiences where, especially the first 2 years that we were in the States, like I said, I went on all the shopping with mom.
Yeah.
Every day there was shopping, especially once we moved into the bigger house. I went to all the furniture shopping. I went with my mom to purchase every single piece of furniture in our house.
Right.
And that took days and days and days and days.
Yeah.
And in those stores, my mom more than once would ask me, like, she would grab me and she would be like, go to him and ask him if they have this and this. And she would give me the instructions, and I would have to. And the weird thing, I think what made it different and made it not as difficult for me was that my mom wasn't overwhelmed or like unsure or insecure, or it didn't come from a place where she was like scared, how Andrea described her parents, or how you described this mom you saw at the supermarket. That's not where it was coming from for mom. From mom, it was coming from kind of a place of like, I hate speaking in English, do it. It's easier for you, do it. And because it was coming from that place of like, I want to go look at these fabrics. Go ask. Go. You do it. Because it's easier for you to talk. It's easier for me to pick out this. So, And since it was coming from that place, it didn't make me feel scared because my mom wasn't scared.
It's more like she's tasking you with a chore at that point. Like,
yes.
It's not like, she's like, I could do this, but like
it's going to take me longer. He's not going to, because she would tell me, he's not going to understand me. He's going to understand you.
Right.
She would say that, but she would say it with like a, like I just don't want to do this.
This guy.
He's not going to understand me. Right. I can't pronounce it correctly. You can say it correctly. Go tell him.
That tracks with mom too.
So because she wasn't scared, and it was coming from a place of like confidence and just like, so I wasn't scared. It was more annoying to me.
Right.
Because I'm like, you just don't want to do it. So you're making me do it. Like, oh yeah, because you can speak better than I can. Go do this. And it was annoying. It was like, why do I, as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, have to go up to these like 20-something dudes to talk to them about furniture?
It is good though, apparently. Like, to send
I mean, it didn't hurt me. It didn't harm me in any way.
No, on the contrary, I think that, like, I don't know, people would argue, I don't know, there's like stuff going on around now, like you should, and like ask your kids to do these things and speak up, and so just for what it's worth, maybe it helped you build some confidence. I don't know.
I mean, sure. I don't think I've ever been particularly shy or like a dwindling flower. I don't think that was in the cards for me, but hey. That wraps it up for us today. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and check us out on Instagram at Where We Land Pod. Hasta la vista, babies.
Ciao, ciao. At Where We Land, we know some immigrant experiences are harder than others, especially for those in the margins of our current legal system. If you would like to help, we encourage you to support organizations that provide services for immigrants and champion their rights. You can find a list of organizations in the show notes.